where they're talking about looking for something. Remember that? Are you still here? Right here. What, do you remember exactly what the words were?
I remember it was a female voice, and I remember she said, she referred to one of the twin peaks, and she said, "There's our prize."
There's our prize. Okay. Lamb then goes on to state, "Thou art to go this way," and speaks of a lightning flash of enlightenment, which in occult tradition is symbolic of Mars, the god of war and fire. Now, I've been doing a lot of reading, unfortunately, about Hitler in the last month. Not something I really want to do, but I've been kind of compelled to do this because of where part of this, unfortunately, or fortunately, because the truth shall set you free, seems to be going. Hitler used these identical themes during the Blitzkrieg, or lightning attacks on neighboring countries, where his officers, who wore lightning bolts on their lapels, were the notorious SS, the original Men in Black. By the way, the previous chapter to the one that Lamb is said to have dictated is in fact called The Tank. Right? And this tank, which was given to Hitler's armored divisions in 1932 by a German general who had French ancestry and was part of another analog of the Thule Society, a secret society out of France, is eerily similar to, in fact, what we're seeing on the Martian surface. The only difference is scale. The previous chapter to the one Lamb is said to have dictated is called The Tank, or The Engine of War, samples of which the Enterprise mission has now apparently discovered in the JPL Pathfinder images. The power behind these occult systems of philosophy on which the various mystery schools have historically been based lies in the beliefs of their practitioners that they embody universal laws of nature, reflecting fundamental properties embedded in everything visible to human beings, including man himself. No one person, people, or race can thus lay just claim to own such laws, although many throughout history, such as Hitler, have made the attempt. Two exquisite but radically different examples of the encoding of such natural systems here on Earth are demonstrated by the Hebrew alphabet and by none other than the Great Pyramid of Giza, Egypt. So let me do this. The designers of these two similar but separately unique creations, in fact, apparently have encoded the same internal systems within each, an unfolding mathematical or architectural pattern communicating information proposed by their designers to be streaming from higher dimensions, i.e. a hyperdimensional physics, into our familiar three-dimensional reality. Radically different schematic blueprints represented by widely divergent physical systems here on Earth for, in essence, preserving identical yet extremely ancient views of the origin and structure of the universe. Two examples. The builders of the Great Pyramid, whomever they ultimately turn out to be, not only demonstrably concretized the spatial dimensions of our Earth within its architecture, they built that architecture out of limestone, technically calcium carbonate. This ubiquitous mineral here on Earth, found as both soft chalk and forever lasting marble, reinforces for us the idea of the creation of life itself, since mountains made of limestone rocks, in whatever form, are called properly the ash of life, as they are literally the remains of once bony structures of millions of endo and exoskeletons of former living creatures on this planet. Thus, in their very form and substance, the pyramids at Giza are literally architectural monuments to the physics of life on Earth. That angle, that 51 degrees everybody talks about, that's part of the hyperdimensional model, exquisitely, as well as the tetrahedral model, and we're not going to get any further into it tonight. There are similar pyramids long known to exist at a variety of other locations here on Earth, and now, through the work of Enterprise and other independent research groups, also on other planets of this solar system, such as Mars. All, according to our preliminary analyses, seem to have been created, at least in part, to reinforce these elegantly simple but profound relationships of living things to universal laws on whatever planet life might find itself. Now, according to the separate but equally important work of our own colleague Stan Tenen at the Mayru Foundation in New England, the Hebrew alphabet also encodes these identical, simple, but profoundly universal laws. The revolving shadow pattern of the same mathematical spin which mimics life unfolding from hyperdimensions into our own. This mathematical spiral form from a simple topological shape called a 2-torus, which looks kind of like a stubby donut or a bagel, is suspended in another simple form, a 4-sided tetrahedron. It is the rotation of this tetrahedral form inside a sphere that in Tenen's profound 25-year-old discovery makes the Hebrew letter forms, when the tetrahedron and the ribbon shape inside it are viewed from different angles. Of course, the vertices of the tetrahedron itself, rotated inside that sphere, any sphere, touch at 19.47 degrees, rounded off to, of course, that ubiquitous 19.5. Intriguingly, Crowley himself died in 1947. Now, the 19.5 degrees latitude is precisely where the Pathfinder lander and rover have been landed by JPL on Mars, an overwhelmingly important symbolic site, apparently according to NASA press releases, chosen by Matthew Golombek himself, the official Pathfinder project scientist at JPL, whose name, incidentally, in Polish means pigeon, which may mean by extension to go home, as in homing pigeon. The other root, golem, in Hebrew means a perfect copy, as in clone. Now, just recently in Scotland, the bastion of another occult mystery school, the Scottish Rite Freemasonry, in a laboratory not far from Roslin Chapel, a renowned monument for Masons, a unique lamb was born, now grown into a sheep, named Dolly. The Dalai Lama? Dolly was cloned, and what is more disturbing, according to some press reports, secretly carries human genomes. There were actually 5 siblings of Dolly. 5 lambs are said to have been born around the propitious time of several additional arcane resurrection themes recently, which when coupled with the number 5 itself and the geometry of the pentagon, was viewed by many occultists as being of great significance for this historical time period, being highly symbolic of man, the orbit of Earth, its relation to the Sun, and, of course, Mars. Now, the year that Crowley died, 47, was also the year of the famous Roswell incident at 33 degrees north latitude, which in Freemasonry is symbolized by the phoenix. The phoenix, of course, is an Egyptian-derived symbolic reference to rebirth or reincarnation. It is fascinating that in hyperdimensional physics, the number 33 refers to the Bucky-Fuller tetrahelix model for DNA. In other words, 33 can be viewed as a code number for the fundamental mechanism. It's 33 turns in a certain length of the fundamental mechanism of biological rebirth, a fitting symbolic foundation for key secret society traditions. In the 1940s, before Crowley's death, Parsons met up with another well-known character in Los Angeles, L. Ron Hubbard. I mean, he had a lot of interesting friends, didn't he? The infamous founder of the Church of Scientology. Parsons and Hubbard quickly became firm friends. And the two of them then set off on self-proclaimed magical rituals of enormous significance, trying to conjure up spirits and summon the gods alchemically, much to the dismay of Crowley, who was suspicious not only of their motives, but their methodology. Remember, he liked talking to the guys directly. Some of these ritual practices were sexual in nature.